The proof of the pudding is in the eating, and that applies to PED as well. So how could you in your city with your stakeholders start with implementing PEDs in your city to find out whether it works for you? I'm Mark van Wees and I'm a researcher at the Amsterdam University of Applied Sciences in the Faculty of Technology and the Faculty of Social Sciences, which is a very good combination when looking at PEDs. In this video I will give you an introduction to PED development and the steps you could take towards implementing this concept. How to get started in your city? First of all, get informed. Either through this course or through the use of many different other resources. Plan this as a research and innovation project. Identify interesting area districts that could be developed into a PED. Think about the objectives of the PED that could contribute to your city and the region targets. Map the planning and policy process in relation to this area you want to develop a PED in. For the area, map and get the local stakeholders on board. Do your impact assessment ex ante to influence the design of your PED. In line with your development objectives in the city, in energy, climate, social and local economy. And then finally go ahead, monitor, evaluate and learn. Let's look at these steps in a bit more detail. All over Europe, cities are experimenting with PEDs, and increasingly resources on design, monitoring and impact of PEDs become available, which you can use to kickstart your development. One source I can recommend is a Positive Energy District Solution booklet, which is published by the EU Smart City Information System. As this is very innovative, you could also engage with research and development projects, either European and in your country. That will help you link with other cities that will do the same and help you get the information on best practices. It's important to know that the PED builds on several technologies and approaches that have been used for a long time. Let's say solar PV as a renewable energy source. But it is innovative in the aspect that it is integrated at a local level. So you should be aware that the PED process is a learning process and should be part of a research and innovation cycle. Identify in your city interesting and potentially feasible areas where you can start working on your first pilot project for a PED. In Europe you see very different mixes and very different areas that are subjective to a PED development. Big choice, do you select new developments or do you go to an existing area that is going to be redeveloped? The first example of the first is that it will allow you more, that will give you more freedom to innovate if you in new development. But an advantage of the second, work with existing building stock, is that it will relate to a far bigger share of your existing city. You look at developments that are already on the way in this area and identify where is it possible to integrate PED approaches. But remember, it's not something completely new PED, but it's a further step from current business as usual, state-of-the-art in urban design. So that relates to the question, how big should a PED be when you start with it? What is the best volume and size? On the one hand you could say big is beautiful because you have more impact, but if you use it as a pilot to learn and innovate, you make it small and manageable. Upscaling and replication are two keywords, and it is more important than the decision on the additional size of a pilot PED. Upscaling means that you make a pilot work and then you make it bigger by integrating more demand and more supply, by integrating new buildings. And it is important that from the very beginning when you look and evaluate PEDs is that you look at the impact. What other areas surrounding the initial PED you can incorporate in the future. Replication is associated with that, is that when you have a successful PED design, you try it again in other parts of the city. And note that your first part of the PED in the city is not very interesting because it's very often subsidized. It's the second and the third PED where you replicate your results. That is critical. Contribute to city objectives. Start thinking about how a PED and its impact could contribute to your objectives on targets in environmental, social and economic domain. For instance, climate neutrality. Some cities want to be climate neutral in 2030s, others take a bit more time and want to be that in 2050. And that has a big impact in when you want PEDs to deliver their impact. Also important is the energy positivity target. Does it make sense to want to achieve that all the time? No. If there is a potential in your city for more renewable energy in the surrounding countryside, it may be better to go for 90% and not 100% climate neutral in the city. Look at the planning and policy processes in the area. You need to latch on to that. For instance, in designing a new urban district, which takes 5 to 10 years, you need to identify at what stage the key decisions are going to be made on the energy system or on the level of climate neutrality. At that stage, you need to incorporate the PED innovation. And look also at the investment cycle. Map and involve your stakeholders at an early stage. Look at the quadruple helix, public, NGO researchers, private sector, financial sector, but also the citizens in the area. Think about the role of stakeholders. Who is going to drive this PED development in the area? Who's going to be the main promoters, the main sponsors? One critical thing is whether or not the city owns much of the land in this PED area to develop. If yes, the city can have a lot of influence on additional benchmark. If not, it's more difficult. Next step, start thinking about calculating impact that should feed into the design of the PED. So what kind of emission reduction do you expect? How would the energy balance look like? And how to achieve your social and economic objectives? You can develop impact pathways, starting from the PED innovations towards the societal impact you want to achieve. And for that you can involve local researchers. There are many tools and models already available to help you with this impact assessment. And what we do in Amsterdam is use theory of change, which is a helpful concept. So, in conclusion, the PED concept and the associated local way of thinking with regards to the energy system, environmental impact, social and economic aspect could speed up urban transition towards your climate neutral, inclusive and smart city goals. But how best to use this concept is for cities and stakeholders to explore. And remember, PEDs are not only an end product, but also a process.